Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome, glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure? It's cultist coffee. What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
There I am. Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning. How are you doing? Welcome to the morning grind. Welcome to the office. I know I had a bit of a strange thumbnail today because my computer said it shut down because of a problem when I was sitting here trying to work on it or seeing down to it. And now for some reason, Adobe Illustrator, where I generally use to create my thumbnails, won't open. So I have to figure that out. But we're talking about Dragon Strike anyway, so I just got us a Dragon Strike picture, so no big deal. We'll figure that out. Good morning, Zero the Blade. Good morning. It is so great to have you here. See, we were in the middle, or we started looking at, I guess you call it the middle. We were looking at Lamentations of the Flame Princess yesterday, and I still want to continue with that. I've actually been thinking about Lamentations of the Flame Princess quite a bit since we started looking at that 2 days ago. So I've been thinking about that. I haven't gotten back to look at it because I was gone all yesterday, basically all yesterday, hanging out with the nephews and playing games with them and doing things. And so I thought we would talk about some observations that I had about the Dragon Strike game while that was still kind of fresh on my mind. I need to do an overview of the War of Kings, Kings of War game as well. I've got some other videos about creating the Kings of War armies and getting them painted up and thinking about the game. But I haven't had time to edit those videos together. Still, Mongoose says the dragons are on strike too. The writers, the actors, and the dragons. Yes, I like that. So yes, the dragon strike. That's the different kind of dragon strike. Hopefully, we won't have to go through that. Can you imagine the trouble we'd be having around here with all the Dungeons and Dragons going on if all of a sudden the dragons were on strike? And what if the dungeons went on strike too? Oh my God, we got the dragon strike with the dungeons are now going on strike. We'd be really hard up over here for having fun and playing. So hey, let's do our breathe and sip this morning right here. Here we go. I got some Mountain Dew Zero this morning, but I got it in the Witch's Brew mug. Changing it up a little bit today. So let's do our breathe and sip. 2 deep inhales, complete exhales, and then we will take a sip of our favorite beverage right here. So here we go. Breathe in. And sip. There we go. All right. So what I thought we would do, I typed up some notes yesterday as we were sitting here after the game. Let me bring those notes, and I'm going to bring up a document over here so that we can discuss it. Because I really want to compare HeroQuest and Dragon Strike. So my thoughts are that they're very similar games, adventure style board games. But which one's better? Which one do we like better? I don't even know if I want to say it as terms of which one do we like better, because I've been enjoying them both. But what are the pros and cons of each one? What does one get right, the other one may get wrong, and so forth. I replayed a lot of HeroQuest. I mean, HeroQuest is the family game. And the reason that I actually started playing Dragon Strike with just the nephews is because I thought that it was just going to be the nephews with me. And so I was like, well, what I'll do is I'll just save HeroQuest for when everybody else everybody else part of the family can be there for the HeroQuest game. And I'll just try out this Dragon Strike with them. Now, actually, yesterday, my brother did play Dragon Strike with us. And, so we're playing Dragon Strike. So my nephews are 6, 9, and 13. So 6, 9, and 13. So that's the age range that we're playing with. And, well, it's a lot of fun. And they play like optimal play style. My brother is really trying to get them to do optimal play, or trying to learn something about strategy and actually coordinate with each other and move through the dungeon together. And, all the kinds of things that you should be doing and thinking about in order to coordinate your hero team as you're moving through a dungeon. The boys do not do that. The boys do not. Naturally, they are not inclined to do that. The adage, don't split the party. Well, they don't understand that at all. This is like the opposite of don't split the party. This is like, whether they're playing HeroQuest or Dragon Strike, this is like you immediately walk into the dungeon. The heroes burst through the door into the dungeon and then immediately shout, everybody, scatter! And then all the heroes just go in every different direction that they want to be going in. So they're pretty much my bard players. So, the first time we played HeroQuest, that worked for them. It worked for them, even though there was no coordination, because their dice rolling was just on fire. I mean, especially the youngest one, the 6-year-old who was playing the elf. I mean, he could just kill everything. So it worked for them just because their dice rolling was on fire. The second time we played HeroQuest with them, it did not work well. Their dice rolling didn't carry them, And so my brother was still he was getting frustrated. My brother and my aunt were also playing HeroQuest with them. And my brother was getting frustrated with the boys. It's like, guys, because of course they will obsess over treasure and stuff like that. But it's such a good game. 7x7 says, I would make up my own quest for HeroQuest, but use the boards from Dragon Strike. I'm sure that happened a lot. Dragon Strike was over at my dad's house, and HeroQuest was over at my mother's house. So we actually never did that because they were kind of like the streams that never crossed as I was growing up. But I am sure that a lot of people used repurposed Dragon Strike boards for HeroQuest. I mean, I would have. I certainly would have. So great. We have some great moments in adventure storytelling. I think I told this last time, but some of you may not have been here. One of the great moments from the first Dragon Strike game we played, the troll. You know, I painted up all the miniatures too. So we had a completely painted Dragon Strike set this time. And the troll came out, and it's a double-spaced monster and was down in the cavern. And when there's just the way the miniature happened to be sitting on and it's the real classic hunched over, long-nosed troll. I really like that depiction of the troll. Kind of really looks like a Billy Goat Gruff troll under the bridge kind of thing. So I really like that classic kind of troll depiction. And so it's naked, and it's hunched over, and just happens to be the way that the miniature went down on the table. Somebody looked at it. I think it was the 13-year-old looked at, oh, Brecken, the troll is showing you its butt. And they're like, oh yeah, it is. And so the 6-year-old backed off from the troll to shoot with his bow, because he's got a bow, and shot the troll. Well, this was their first experience probably with troll regeneration. And then so then on my turn, I said, all right, the arrow falls out of the troll, and then its wound heals. And it was like, oh. And then when their dad came in to see what was going on, because he was working, the 6-year-old goes, oh, Dad, the arrow fell out of the troll, and its butt healed. It's like, so yes, troll problems. And they asked me, did you paint the troll's butt yesterday? And I said, yes. This time we were playing Prince Naren's Seal, and the quest was basically that Prince Naren had brought them into called them in to assign them for an adventure. And this bugbear, this is the first time they were fighting bugbears too. This bugbear bandit had stolen Prince Naren's seal and was going to use it to unjustly imprison and execute his foes, right? And so the heroes were tasked with entering the bugbear bandit's lair and recovering Prince Naren's seal. And at the end, when they did get it done, with some coaching with my brother who was playing the wizard to try to take out this dragon. They did get it done. And then I handed the token for Prince Naren's seal to the 9-year-old. And I said, here it is. And it's like a wax, thing with the emblem in it. And he looked at it, and he was like, had this visible look of confusion on his face. And then he looked at me and goes, I thought we were looking for an animal. So Prince Naren's seal is going to have to come up in some type of spoof or parody then. Because so that entire time he thought like he was looking for Prince Naren's pet. I love it. I love it. The kind of things you don't think about when you're playing with kids like this. We also had an incident where the youngest one stepped in a trap. But the 6-year-old was reading that. So yeah, Steele said, so I brought along all these fish. Yeah, that's like all the random different items that you might have. That we were talking about, like, no, you really should have some flour, or you really should have, we were talking about that when we're talking about Knave and eclectic collections of things to bring into a dungeon, because it could be more like an adventure game or something like that. In this, if you're searching for Prince Naren's seal, you get this whole bunch of a bunch of fish with you. So I'm going to bring up these notes over here. That is why the English language can be confusing sometimes. Oh yes, Keith Crow says, "Ha, that's awesome about the seal. It makes me think about the Knights of the Dinner Table story where they attacked the gazebo. That's a classic story. Yes, it is. That's absolutely like Knights of the Dinner Table level stuff. The attack of the seal, the attack of the gazebo, searching for Prince Naren's seal. You bring it back, and Prince, that must be terrible. Like, oh my God, the bugbear bandit stole your seal. Don't worry. We're heroes. We'll go get him back. We'll go bring him back home. So one of the reasons I was taking these notes as well is because I would like, now this is not on the project docket yet. There are plenty of other projects to do first, but I would like to be able to do some type of adventure game like this one day. But I would need a good rule set, and I need to think about. And so I was collecting my thoughts and my notes, my thoughts about this since it was fresh yesterday. Let me bring up where are my other notes? Okay, so Dragon Strike pros, I would say. So I like having a lot of adventures that are a variety of difficulty levels and that are for multiple numbers of players. That's really nice, which HeroQuest does not do this. HeroQuest does not have difficulty levels signed for quests or quests designed for multiple heroes. For different numbers of heroes. Because like in Dragon Strike, there are like one-player adventures. So if you just have one player, then you could actually do HeroQuest. Do Dragon Strike. Don't have that in HeroQuest. Wish that I did for different numbers of heroes. So to me, that's a big plus of Dragon Strike. And having a lot of quests. Now, see, the advantage is that one of the advantages is that HeroQuest has a lot of quests. Of course, you do have the thing in the back of the book that's design your own quests, and you have to have that. You have to have that because people want to design their own quests. But for me, also, I know that one of the reasons why HeroQuest has gotten on the table so often over the many decades that it has been part of the family is because it has a whole bunch of quests, and the game master or the Zargon can just pick it up and can play with it in, well, there's the setup time, which has gotten more complicated now that we've made more stuff for HeroQuest. But generally, in very low amount of setup time, because you just have to bring out you're not having to set up tiles. You just open up the board, you set it down, put out some other cards and let people choose heroes and things like that. So there's a little bit of prep. But then basically, you just immediately play. You don't have to, the Zargon doesn't require any amount of time prior to the game to run a HeroQuest game. There's a little bit more that has to be time that the game master needs to run a Dragon Strike adventure because there's more to read. And I have noticed that's a bit of a disadvantage because I'm typically the one coordinating, setting up all of the Dragon Strike board. And then I realize, oh, I got to read all of this adventure to make sure that I've got everything right and understand everything. And sometimes both times I've forgotten to do that in advance. So if somebody else can set up the board, the Zargon or the Game Master player in Dragon Strike could take that time to read. But if you're trying to coordinate the 6, 9, 13-year-old to get the game set up, you can't really read it during that time. And of course, I do think, is there a way to create each game with notes about the number of monsters based on the number of players or how easy it's going to be? So this does have difficulty levels, but I wonder, this would be more complicated, but if you're like, my brother did ask, are there notes in there about how this game would change with different numbers of players? And Dragon Strike doesn't have that. But you could have something potentially where it's like, well, if you got 3 heroes, there's this in this room. If there's 4 heroes, add an additional this over here and, and that over there. That would get more. Cal says, I still have this one. Let's see. I was enjoying, like I said, the HeroQuest has been such a family staple. We played that one on Mother's Side of the Family all the time. But then again, I have really enjoyed this Dragon Strike. Okay. This is a huge plus for Dragon Strike. Is there's a time factor with the dragon. Keeps the pressure on because you're counting down until the dragon arrives. And you've got different numbers of turns until the dragon arrives. And this keeps the pressure on at least until the dragon arrives and makes it matter if players spend too much time searching for something. So they've got to figure out how to use their time. On the other hand, if they move too fast, they might miss important treasures. So, I talk about this all the time on here. We do. Time is an underused element. HeroQuest really needs a time factor. That's probably one of the biggest changes I would make, is having time matter more in HeroQuest. Time does matter in Dragon Strike. You only have a certain number of rounds until the dragon arrives. This time, like last time, I noticed that if they move too fast, they might miss important treasures. The heroes did kind of move too fast. Strangely, the boys will get very caught up on a treasure chest. When they see a treasure chest, they want it. Although in Dragon Strike, you can search the bodies of monsters after you kill them. So the bodies of the monsters are kind of like a treasure chest. And there may be no treasure on the monster, but you can search the monsters after they're dead. And for some reason, they don't do that as much as just get keyed in on the treasure chests. But in this case, there were actually, was it 3 or 4 treasure cards? Maybe 3, maybe 4. I don't know. There were 3 or 4 treasure cards that they missed that was kind of front loaded in the adventure because they were moving. They just kept going after the monsters were dead. Now, the time factor kind of stops after the dragon arrives. So to me, it needs something like the Angry GM's tension dice that we were talking about in another video. Potentially to keep that time pressure on even after the dragon's arrived. Because I like that. I like that a lot. What's next here? Of course, there are 4 different game boards for 4 different environments. That's a big plus of Dragon Strike. We'll talk about the con with the static board right here. But it is nice to have 4 different environments. You get the outdoors board, you get the town board, you get the castle board, and you get the cavern board. Each one of them does have a different feel, so I like that. That's probably why a lot of them got repurposed for HeroQuest. It's difficult to beat the HeroQuest board, though. The HeroQuest board is so timeless and general. It can be used over and over and over again. The HeroQuest board is very difficult to beat, but for gameplay and reusability and all of that. But having the 4 different boards with different environments is nice. But there's a con about that as well. As some things have trade-offs, so there'll be a con about them as well. But here, there's no money or gold as part of the treasure. So when you're searching for treasure in Dragon Strike, there's no money or gold as part of the treasure. That means that every treasure that's found is some kind of magic item or potion that's, a potion is a magic item, but some type of magic item that is immediately usable in the game. So in HeroQuest, you can find gold, jewels. Okay, great. Put that on your character sheet. Save up. You can buy something with it later, but that gold or those gems don't help you down in the dungeon right now. That's the long-term stuff. I was thinking about this as I was playing yesterday when they needed to go back, like when the dragon came up and they were arguably underarmed or underprepared for it because they had missed some of the treasure that was earlier on in the game. That, well, they needed to go back and search for those. Now, it was a random card draw. There were random card draws. But I was thinking, but every card in that deck is going to be something that is immediately usable to them, with the exception that there are some items that, like, there was no thief in the party. So there were some items, I guess they could draw one that only the thief could use. So they wouldn't have been able to use that. Now, I wonder in other games, I guess you could take out, there's a little bit more prep time, but if you wanted to be sure that, if you wanted to be certain as far as your game design that everything would be usable, you'd need to remove any magic item that is exclusive to a class that's not actually in the game right then. So I was thinking, because, in HeroQuest, you can search for treasure and you can get a hazard, or a wandering monster. So there's a risk associated with searching for treasure. There's no risk associated with searching for treasure in Dragon Strike. I don't know whether that's a pro or a con overall, but it's like I said, it means that, hey, if you need some bonuses, if you realize you're under equipped, go back and search some extra monsters, because you're not going to suffer hit point damages. You're not going to bring out more monsters. You know that your items are going to be usable. So that's different and interesting gameplay. Good morning, Brett. Good morning. Right. So no fungible assets. Exactly. I mean, you can add that in. Keith Crow says, good point. HQ is more about more campaign driven, where Dragon Strike is great for a one-off adventure. Yes. In fact, I bring up that point again, exactly that point as we go on. But yes, that's exactly right. And, regarding that, I'm very much about the session-focused kinds of things. Lately, being session-focused rather than, hey, when we're talking about a role-playing game, hey, let's start a game and where we're going to be playing for 6 hours every week for the next 20 years. Much more, and go to, whatever levels or whatever. I'm much more interested in packing in as much adventure into a single game session as possible. And so in that sense, because you're always finding things that are relevant to that game right now, it puts the emphasis on that game right now. So Dragon Strike does that. Oh, okay. So we're putting here as a pro because my brother brought this up to me after we had finished playing. Because I might have said, is this a negative? He says that a fair amount of treasure is classed, which is what we were just talking about, has a class exclusion on it, meaning it is not usable by every hero. HeroQuest had things that does have items that may not be used by the wizard, but that was it, as I recall. There were some things that, like, you can't hold the battle axe and a shield, but that's not class specific. But there were a lot of things that may not be used by the wizard, but there were no things that may only be used by, the dwarf. Now, I believe that changed. That does change. Their elf specific things in the elf quest pack, and there are barbarian specific things in the barbarian quest pack, right? But in the core game system, treasure was not classed in that way. So why is this a plus? Well, my brother thought that it was a plus for the following reason. This is a plus because it means that even if you have a player who is very treasure focused, just because they get to it first, they might not be able to use it. And I went, oh, well, that's a great point. So we've got one of the boys they're all kind of treasure focused, but one of the boys is specifically extremely treasure focused. So he'll go for the treasure chest and open it up. But it's nice that, okay, this is it doesn't necessarily mean that just because you're the one who sacrifices, your other people to go and get to a treasure chest and open it up, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're even going to be able to use that treasure. Now, of course, that some treasure chests are empty. So there's no guarantee there's treasure inside anyway. But even if you do get a treasure draw, it's not exactly guaranteed that you're going to be able to use it, which does promote cooperation, at least among players of that age. Because then when somebody draws that's the warrior only, and it is the dwarf or whatever, it does encourage them to go and meet up, get adjacent to one another and trade magic items. So my brother put that as a pro. So I think that's an interesting point. Keith says, I might have to bust out my copy of Dragon Strike when my son has friends over instead of trying to lead a D&D session. Well, what I'm going to try to do, Keith says, it's been so long since I played, and this is a great reminder. I highly recommend it. So, like I said, we play both HeroQuest and Dragon Strike. In fact, got to get my aunt over to play Dragon Strike, play HeroQuest with us again this summer. I'm probably going to take another day off of the morning grind in another week or two and go back over there and play, because it's the summer. The boys are off of school. Hey, you got to play with your friends and family while you have the opportunity. So I'm going to go over there and play some more. But my goal is to get them over to one of the intro to Dungeons and Dragons box. Like, I'm going to try to do the actual ladder of the games to try to get the boys up to playing something like this, the introduction to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I'm going to try to get them to play this, but I'm going to do it by stepping them through Dragon Strike, and then I'm going to try Dragon Quest. We looked at Dragon Quest. We need better miniatures for it, but we looked at Dragon Quest on the morning grind. So do Dragon Strike, then Dragon Quest, which is a bit more of a bridge between it and a role-playing game, and then use the intro to Dungeons and Dragons box, because it does have poster maps. I still think they want to move maps. They have maps and move around miniatures, but the intro boxes do have that. We will see if that is successful, and then actually get them to playing D&D. Now, the oldest one did play D&D with me. He said that he wanted to play D&D, and so I ran him on when he was over here having a sleepover at my house. We're having a board game weekend, and we did play one game, a one-player game. I ran him through some stuff, and he enjoyed it. Okay, let's see. Where's my notes? Where did my notes go? Okay. Okay, is this a pro or a con? We can discuss. And I've really been trying to decide next, because some things are just different. So, like I said, some things are just different, so it doesn't have to be a pro or a con. But Dragon Strike has non-random damage. I tend to like, we talk a lot about randomization and the effect of random numbers and randomization and dice rolls on games on this channel. And I think that HeroQuest is a bit too random. We've talked about that, and I've talked about how I would adjust HeroQuest damage if I were recreating it, and it happens to be the same system that we used when we created Enchantress. My brother and I created the Enchantress board game. It's what we call swords and shield system, which is active attack, active defense, both. You know, roll to hit and roll to defend yourself. We like that, but we came up with an alternate, less random system. So it sits in between Dragon Strike and HeroQuest. But in general, I would say I like that HeroQuest, you can suddenly be hit very hard. You have less predictability in your combat. And I think it's important in game design to know where you want your randomization to be. Where do you want your players to actually have to take risks and have the unknown? Well, in an adventure game, fighting and combat is an obvious location to have that. So because this is a positive, it can also be a negative. HeroQuest characters can all of a sudden be hit hard. I mean, an orc attacks with 3 attack dice. That's as strong as a barbarian. So sometimes even an orc can come by and lay down the hurt on a HeroQuest character. So there's extra risk there. You can lay down some hurt yourself as a character. The flip side to that, of course, because of that randomization, is that sometimes the barbarian doesn't roll well all game and does no damage. You know, that's the randomization. I mean, you can just be horrible at rolling. That we went through a horrible rolling, like 15 or 20 minutes during the Dragon Strike game yesterday, even with this rolling the way that it is. And I mean, it's brutal. But I guess I tend to like that. But players in Dragon Strike can only suffer 1 point of damage per attack. So you're rolling your die, and you've got to roll equal to or over the enemy's armor class. I like that, and it's I like that. And if you do, you suffer 1 point of damage. There is a magic item that allows you to do 2 points of damage on an attack. But the point here is that it's non-random damage. You know what's happening here. This could be a pro because it does give the players more of an understanding of how close to death they are. I'm going back and forth on this, because it does let you, like, if you go exploring on your own, like some of the boys want to do, and go, I'm going to go open here and see what's in here. Well, if there are 2 monsters in there, then basically, now some monsters do have multi-attack, but generally speaking, if there are 2 low-level monsters in the room, they're only going to lose a maximum of 2 hit points if both of them hit. You know, assuming you're not fighting a major monster. Whereas in HeroQuest, if there are 2 orcs in there, you could potentially lose 6 hit points and be dead. So from the game side of things, this does give the players a bit more of an understanding of how close to death they are, which makes that side of things less random, which I think helps out the— helps out the heroes. So that side, that might actually be good. Let's see what people are saying over here. Keith says, my son's has Dragons of Stormwreck Isle that I still need to run from him. Oh, yeah. I think didn't we look at that box on the channel as well? I got it sitting over there. Dragon Strike might be good to get them to understand some of the basic role playing needed for D&D and some of the terminology, like the armor class and feats and things like that. That's all in Dragon Strike. So I don't know. Let me know if you have thoughts on that. Or any of this, of course. But let me know what you think on that. Let's see. Over here. This is kind of the play style here. This might be more play style, but I think it is technically in the rules. That hidden monster stats. Monster stats in HeroQuest are specified as public information. You've got the cards, and the cards, and I believe this is rules as written and not something that I just remember that an unofficial house rule that we didn't even know was a house rule. But I am pretty sure that the monster stats in HeroQuest are specified as public information, and that's why you've got the monster cards. So if the heroes need to see what a monster is like, they can look at that. But this is not the case in Dragon Strike. I couldn't find anywhere in Dragon Strike where it said the monster stats are supposed to be public knowledge. And so I have made them not public knowledge. I don't tell them what the ACs are. Now, sometimes people say, well, for the speed of combat, just tell them the AC is whatever. And then if they roll, they just know. So they tend to ask me until they can kind of figure out what the monster's AC is or how many hit points a monster has or something like that. And since this is especially the first time these boys are encountering a lot of these different types of monsters like gargoyles and bugbears and man scorpions and all of that, I think it invokes a bit of a sense of mystery. You know, they don't even know what the stats or capabilities are of monsters that they haven't seen yet, because I don't let them go through, anything like that. So they've seen the miniatures and they want to look at the miniatures because I had painted them, but they don't know what any of them do. So other players might not like that. I think my brother was a bit disgusted about that at the table, that I wasn't just giving out the monster stats, because he wanted to know, like, hey, if I cast this spell, how well is that monster going to resist or something like that. So this is a play style thing, but I kind of like playing with the boys where they kind of have to figure out their monsters. Let's see. All right, what's next? Spells that last more than one turn. I do like that. Now, I guess there are a couple of HeroQuest? See, a couple of HeroQuest spells that could last more than one turn. There's the apparently controversial Courage spell, which I've talked about in other videos when we're looking at HeroQuest magic. We always played that it was a multi-turn spell. Some people apparently on YouTube think that is completely wrong. But Dragon Strike specifically has spells that last more than one turn, and you count them down with a slider. So it does mean you have to track turns. So I try to make sure I remind the boys as they're going around to make sure that if they've got some kind of spell that's lasting for some number of turns, that they do, slide their counter down to make sure that that's it. But it means that, like, the wizard or the elf, when the elf is casting a spell, isn't just trading an action for an action. It can have more impact. Your spell can have more impact than that. Like the haste spell is actually a fantastic spell. We realized yesterday during the game. The haste spell gives a hero in Dragon Strike an extra attack and an extra move. And it lasts for 4 turns. So having the wizard give up, I mean, it's not giving up, but having the wizard say, on my action, I'm going to cast a spell and I'm going to cast haste on this other character, gives that other character a lot of extra action. I mean, that's a great spell. Invisibility does this. Flying does this. Levitating does this. And actually, arguably, some spells that say they last the duration of the adventure, I would put the 4-round counter. Like, all of them have like a 4-round counter on them. You put a 4-round counter on it, and I like that. I like that. So the spells that last more than one turn, they have a greater impact, and I think they make you feel like you're doing something more. Keith says hidden monster stats for Dragon Strike sounds like the best way to play the game. It adds a level of mystery and discovery to the game. That's what I think. I agree. Keith says I might be skipping ahead. I recall the characters had some equipment listed on their cards. That opens the gameplay up to role play, where HeroQuest seems very equipment mechanic and dice driven. It does. In fact, I could go and the box is sitting over in the bar in the kitchen. I could go and get it if we need it. But yes, there are some equipment listed on the cards, and so those are useful for role play, which we really have not been doing role playing in the game. So you can just skip just skip over that. But there is equipment listed that they have, especially if the players are trying to conduct a feat of strength or a feat of dexterity. So if they're trying to do something that isn't exactly covered by the rules, then there's the catch-all feat of strength or feat of dexterity that the Dragon Master is what it's called, could call for and to try to adjudicate it. We haven't been doing a lot of that. I mean, sometimes they make feats of strength and dexterity to do things that are in the game, but not really anything free form. But your equipment can be used for those free form kinds of actions that you want to take. Let's see what's next. Spells tend to do more stuff. I like flight, levitation, invisibility, etc. The youngest one, the 6-year-old, really likes invisibility. He also likes it. He was levitating the other time too. Flight. He got flight again. He was flying around a potion of flight yesterday and then turned invisible. He actually escaped with the Prince Naren's seal by turning invisible so that he was low on hit points. Then the monsters couldn't see him, and then he left the castle. So pretty cool. It was pretty cool. So I like having flight, levitation, invisibility. I like a lot of the HeroQuest spells. I've got a video where I specifically went through all of the HeroQuest spells from the core book. And then I've got another one where I went through specifically the elf spells to take a look at their usability. I find that the HeroQuest spells are a bit uneven. Some of them are used all the time. That seemed to be, other people seem to agree in the YouTube comments about what are the most useful spells and what are the spells that don't tend to get used as often or maybe never. And the elf spells looked uneven as well. And I would say in HeroQuest, the best college is definitely Earth. Like there's obviously a college of spells that are just best. But here we've got a lot more variety. So it does let people do more things like role playing. Now there's still some bad spell cards. We'll put them in con. But I do like having the players with more kinds of different spell options. And sometimes the bad guy too. I haven't run a game yet where the bad guys had magic, but the bad guy has magic. But you can have magic bad guys in HeroQuest as well because Zargon has spells. So I tend to like that. I'm not sure if this is a pro or a con or if this is just different or I'm not sure. But here, I do tend to like the trap deck. Now, I like cards in general because I like handing things to players. I mean, when the boys get a treasure draw, they like it. Or when they find treasure on a monster that's actually been specified or in a chest, when I reach across over the screen to hand them a card, they love it. So if cards and gameplay are interesting, and like I said, I tend to be pro card, then Dragon Strike does have a trap deck. It doesn't specify what types of traps are in different squares like it does in HeroQuest. Instead, there's a trap deck that you go to draw, and then you see what happens to you or how you respond. I'm not sure if there is a great advantage in doing it one way or another. And sometimes the trap could be rusted. There is like a rusted trap or broken trap. So sometimes you don't have to deal with the trap because you'll draw and there won't be a trap. So actually, that's kind of reverse in HeroQuest. We said that when you're searching for treasure in HeroQuest, there can be a danger. You can draw a hazard, lose body points. You can draw wandering monsters, and monsters get put out on the deck. on the table. But when you step in a trap, that is specified what's going to happen to you on the table, so in the game. So maybe we should think about this in that direction, that in HeroQuest, treasure searches can potentially be bad for you, and you always are going to have something negative happen to you when you hit a trap. Well, you could roll and negate the effect, but you know something negative is going to happen. But in Dragon Strike, there's no danger to searching for treasure. Every time you search for treasure, you're either going to get nothing or you're going to get something useful. When you step in a trap in Dragon Strike, a variety of different things could happen to you, including nothing. So it's kind of like the reverse of the treasure deck. The trap deck could, okay, there was a trap, but phew, it was rusted, or it was broken, or it was disarmed. I think there are 3 cards in there. We haven't actually drawn one yet. So that'll surprise the boys when they see it, because I'm not letting them like read through the treasure deck or the trap deck or anything like that. They discover it as they draw it. So I guess I'm generally pro card, so I might be inclined to have a game that has a trap deck in it rather than specifications. Quiet in the comments this morning. Trap deck. Let's see. What's next? What's the next one? Okay, so next, okay, now we're on to cons. No character advancement. This has to do with the session-focused nature of this. So there's no character advancement in Dragon Strike. Players clear their sheets after each game, and so do not carry magic items over with them. If they were carrying magic items over with them, I mean, you can get a lot of magic items in treasure and magic items in Dragon Strike. So you're not carrying these with you. You would be so overloaded in Dragon Strike. So you clear your treasure, and there's no leveling up. So there's no sense of being a progression, and you don't even you don't level up technically in HeroQuest either. But as you get additional gold, you can go buy things. So there's a bit of a progression in there that, well, I've gathered all this gold, so now I'm going to use the battle axe, and so I have more attack power, or I have more defense power because I bought a shield or a helmet and stuff like that. So there's still some advancement there. There isn't any here. I'm not sure. I put that as a con here because, but it's not, it may not necessarily be. I mean, it's just very session focused like it was earlier. And that's when you're just playing with the nephews, like in a style of game like that, every game you just start and then you play and you get magic treasure and advancement. You get magic treasure and make your character better right there during the game. It's usable. And then next time we'll start over. Is that a pro or a con? I'm not sure. See, that's one of the things that I think would be difficult, or I would have to make a decision on if I were trying to do game design. Which one of those is better? Having some type of advancement system to string together campaigns, or be completely session focused? I'm not sure. Right now, with my current thinking, session focused seems to be a thing. Because you don't want the downside of the others. If you're not really getting together to play a lot of games and campaigns, then getting gold when you're basically playing a one shot and then you get gold or gems, that doesn't help you at all. Especially if it's 30 gems and everything costs at least 150, right? So from that side of things, you would go from the game side. That's not fun. You go, oh, gold, cool, or gems, jewels, cool. But then there's nothing that it actually does in the context of a one shot or just very sporadic play. So since that's not fun, not cool, the game design in me says that game designer says, well, then eliminate it. Instead, go with the Dragon Strike route. But then on the other hand, if you are playing so that you're doing a campaign kind of game, having some things that allow you to level up over time is important. Zero the Blade says, while the idea of multi-set one-shots are nice, it does suck when you have to lose all the items that you got and never used. While the idea of multi-set one-shots are nice, it does suck when you have to lose all the items that you got and never used. Yeah, or that, hey, I got the magic sword, so why don't I keep the magic sword? It's going to be different styles of play. Because you can't hand out magic items as fast as Dragon Strike is if you're planning on doing a campaign. You just a campaign play that just won't work. You'd have to do something that's XP. You actually have a level up system, so you are slowly progressing. But then once you find a magic item, you get to keep it. But then you're going to need other rewards to keep the players interested. Like if they're not finding magic items as often, that will be rare and more special when they do find them. But then what do you do in the meantime to keep them interested? Gold to use in between games, I guess. So that's an important game design decision. That's a really important game design decision. What are we trying to do with this? The negative here is the static game boards. It does not have the timeless flexibility of the HeroQuest board. And it also, I need to go ahead and add in here, because it uses some, like, especially on the castle, some odd isometric or design of the board. Sometimes that obscures spaces or makes some things unclear. Like some doors are clearly one space, one door, and then one space on the other side. Sometimes doors appear to be one space on this side, and you can go to two spaces over on the other side. Sometimes it looks like there are two spaces on each side of the door. So that's unclear. I don't know why they didn't do this, but the static game boards, I don't know why they did this. And by static game boards, I'm like saying when they got the castle here, the castle has those doors actually painted onto the or painted on this part of the art of the game board. So the castle doesn't change. The castle doesn't change in the same way that the HeroQuest board can change, because we've got timeless flexibility. I mean, I've done countless quests on HeroQuest boards, and they're all different. But the castle is cool, but then once you arrive at the castle, it doesn't change. It's just one castle. It doesn't change the way the HeroQuest board can. The HeroQuest board is completely straight down. I'm trying to think of the word right there. I can't right now, and I should. It's not isometric, which helps out with its gameplay. This is a confusion of gameplay right here. So, like, doing something like modular caverns is difficult. I understand that. But I wanted more flexibility out of the castle. If I could come up with some way to make more flexibility out of the caverns, I would. I guess the woods does okay. It's been a long time since I played on the woods, and on the woods board in Dragon Strike, and so I'm going to withhold judgment on it. I suppose that'll be coming up soon with the boys. But you know, that's also kind of a hard one to do, because it could be open space or there's some trees. I think there's a clearing or something like that. So we'll have to see how that one does. And then the town, there isn't much flexibility in the town either. Again, the doors are put on there. So it's nice that you've got multiple environments, but man, they needed to be more flexible. They needed to learn a bit more from the HeroQuest board, I think, in making those different environments more flexible as far as their board goes. Oh, I think I already talked about this. It says that it requires, or Dragon Strike requires a little more out of the game master than HeroQuest does, because there's more reading to it, which is not a lot. But I'm just saying you need to read in advance of the game a bit more in HeroQuest, because it does give you some options as the game master, which is nice. But then you have to realize, oh yeah, I need to actually place these options and take a pencil out and make up some marks on the map about where I'm going to put things. That way you don't, you know, HeroQuest, you basically don't even have to read the room. until it's triggered, which is nice. Oh, they walked into the room and read it. You don't have to worry about, oh, now over here in the prep section, you were supposed to make some decisions about these things. Like I said, it's not a lot. It's not going to, anybody who's playing Dungeons and Dragons is not going to think that it's, oh my God, overwhelming. My point is that it does require more reading and prep for the game master to have things up, especially if they are also the person managing the players to get them ready. Like, for instance, both times I have forgotten to read the adventure in advance. I was trying to do it when I got all the nephews running around. Okay, we also just talked about this one. There's no money to be found as treasure to buy things between quests. This goes along with the inability to level up your character. The power of characters is dependent upon the treasure card draws during the game. There's no way to make a deliberate decision about your character's stats, like should I buy better armor or a greatsword in advance of the next game. There's like, how are you going? Another game design thing you would have to think about if you're trying to work with level up is how do you want your characters to level up? I'm using level up generally here because you could have them level up through a level system, get XP, and now you're leveling up. You could have them level up by accumulating treasure like in HeroQuest and then buying better gear. And so that's basically improving and leveling up your character. But that also, you're going to have to figure out that's going to become more complicated if you are trying to design the quests, which I really liked. I think that was like my first point, that Dragon Strike has easy, like has quests rated for easy, average, difficult, or very difficult quests for 2 to 3 players, or heroes, 2 to 3 heroes, 1 hero for 4 to 5 heroes. Because there's no advancement, we're just talking about, is this, am I trying to rank? Am I trying to make an easy quest, an average quest, a difficult quest, or a very difficult quest? And then how many players have I got? You don't have to worry about this is an easy quest for 3 or 4 players of levels 5 and 6. Or this is a medium quest for 2 to 3 players with at least 2,000 gold worth of magic items or something like that. That gets much more complicated to try to measure all of that out. That's actually a way, I think, if you want to have those different varieties in your quests, which I really do. If you ask me, do you want the variety in the quest or do you want a level up system? I would take variety in the quests, I think. But if you're trying to do both, then you've really got a complex system to try to put together, whether it's going to be easy, difficult, or whatever. Or do you, because then you could even say this is an easy quest as long as you've got 5 characters of 5th level. That's a lot of variables to start to manage during quest design. Dragon Strike is just managing 2 right now. What's the intentional level difficulty or difficulty level of the quest based on how many characters are being played? That's pretty straightforward. Once you start to add in another variable like the level up or gear of the characters, I think it's going to start to get more, you're going to need a much more complicated system, at least a much more complicated or robust system to continue to balance adventures. And I want to get back to playing my solo HeroQuest game. I just haven't been able to do dinner and a board game in the past few weeks. But, this is an exciting part of this. One of the reasons that I'm really excited to get back and playing my elf is that my elf did get a lot of treasure in HeroQuest. I've got a very well outfitted elf now as the result of having gone through the first solo quest in HeroQuest. So I was very excited about that. And I'm very excited to continue playing the elf. I've been thinking about that quite a bit. I was like, I haven't been able to play HeroQuest solo lately for dinner and a board game. And I want to because I've got such great gear. So if you don't have that, then you're not going to have that feeling. So this is a complicated game design decision. We tend to like active defense around here. I tend to like active defense. That's kind of my default kind of go-to. And I think that's probably from starting gaming with HeroQuest. And it seems like when we've been talking about this from the game design perspective here, people have tended to like active defense as well. There is no active defense in Dragon Strike. And by active defense, I'm saying You roll to attack, and then you also roll to defend. That's your HeroQuest setup. It's also the system that we used, an active defense system in Enchantress, when my brother and I were designing Enchantress, because we like it. It feels like then you get to defend. So that's a negative to something like Dungeons and Dragons, because a lot of players, wait, don't I get to defend myself when you're first starting or something like that? No, you don't get to defend yourself. There is just your AC, and now the game master will be rolling to hit your AC. And if you are, then you're hit and you take damage. As with Dungeons and Dragons, in Dragon Strike, there is no active defense. When players are being attacked, it's only whether the GM can roll over the armor class of the hero, or else they suffer a point of damage for each hit. I haven't seen that this has been really a big problem in the game, though. Like I said, even though my default is to go active defense, I haven't really seen that as a big problem, because this is faster, because it requires only half the number of dice rolls. You cannot discount that from a game design perspective. This requires only half the number of rolls, and it only requires, instead of having, active attack, active defense, and then damage rolls. There's no damage rolls. Every attack is just one roll. That does keep things moving along. You don't have to, okay, I roll, then you roll, then maybe I'll roll for damage or something like that. There's just one roll. So it's half the number of rolls as in HeroQuest. Keeps things moving. I mitigate this by rolling all of my dice in public as the game master. So I don't hide the dice rolls behind the screen when the monsters are attacking. That way everybody's, okay, the monster's attacking you. The boys all look at the dice and want to know what I'm rolling. So they tend to, I suppose, get the I don't know, the anticipation out of watching the game master's dice rolls. And I tend to do them pretty fast so I can get back around to the players playing. So nobody has actually said anything about that. So I tend to be on the active defense side. And I think a lot of people like active defense here on this channel. But on the other hand, the counterbalance to that is always game design and gameplay, always. And this is a situation where you don't have it, but I think it's working. I still put it kind of as a negative because I can tend to like it, but maybe on the balance, then that's a positive. This is just my notes as I was thinking about it yesterday. Any great thoughts on that? This one gets into the game design here, and this is dead monsters on the board, or the actual design of the pieces. Because in Dragon Strike, dead monsters remain on the board. Monster corpses remain on the board until they're looted, so you knock them down and turn them over, making monster corpses basically treasure chests to be looted. Most monsters don't have treasure, but the problem is that there's not enough miniatures in the game to have miniatures lying down on the board until they're searched. Like I said, when the players didn't search some of the monsters, I had monsters laying down that I ended up needing elsewhere on the board, because there's Dragon Strike is a bit lighter on miniatures than is HeroQuest. Plus, having a bunch of miniatures laying down on the board sucks from the gameplay experience, because you can stand on a dead monster, but you can't really put your miniature on the square with a dead monster, which means the monsters laying down tend to get shuffled around, trying to stay relatively close to where they fell or something like that. I think that if you're going to have that kind of mechanic, then at least we need tokens, flat tokens, to represent monster corpses. You would need tokens to represent each different kind of dead monster, because sometimes it can't just be dead monster. At least in Dragon Strike, because it's going to tell you this orc has treasure, this bugbear has treasure. So you would need to be able to remember, in the event that, the players run off because they're being pursued or something like that, and then come back later. Was this a dead orc? Was this a dead bugbear? Was this the dead gargoyle? Whatever. But we need something flat there to keep the board clear. That's a very, coupled with some of the awkwardness of the way that the Dragon Strike boards are drawn in their static way, which we just talked about. This is also a weird one. A weird part of the game board that you have to manage. Oh, We covered that one. Let's see. Searching for secret doors. Searching for secret doors. Okay, you have to roll to search for secret doors. And I think this is another situation where if you're a game designer, you have to really carefully think about what it is that you want to be random in your game. And they said in an adventure game, combat seems to be the obvious one. Searching for secret doors. You do not have to search, but you do not have to roll dice to search for treasure in Dragon Strike. You do not have to search for you do not have to roll dice to search for treasure in HeroQuest. You do have to roll to find secret doors in Dragon Strike. You do not have to roll to find secret doors in HeroQuest. You just make the search, and if it's there, you find one. But here, this is a weak point here because the player does make this roll in Dragon Strike. Okay, yeah, I'm searching for secret doors. Okay, make your secret door roll. But here you've got the problem that you always have in a role-playing game like this. I mean, this is like all of the problems for secret door searching. The player makes the roll, and they know whether or not they have failed. Now, you could take, I know, it's like somebody surely will say, well, house rule it, and say that as for secret door searching, the game master must take that one behind the screen. But I haven't been taking anything behind the screen with the boys. They're searching for secret doors. Okay, then you roll the dice. But they know whether or not they have failed or if they need to try again. And once the dragon has appeared, why does time matter? So one reason you might not search for secret doors is because you do have the counter, which is nice. Like, all right, we're trying to find something. We don't have time. So once the dragon, but before the dragon has appeared, hey, we're trying to find secret doors here, and I'm just rolling terribly over and over and over again. Like, so maybe we add in the tension dice. But the player knows whether or not they failed the roll, and you could theoretically never make the roll. And we talk about that with randomization in here as well. Even so, you're trying to roll a 6 or more in order to discover a secret door. Basically, in order to succeed on a check, you're trying to roll a 6 or more. And then all of your abilities are either rated as D8, D10, or D12. But even if you've got a D12 in there and you're trying to roll 6 or above, that's just over a 50-50 chance, right? So even for the people who are really good at something, you're only rolling a D12 trying to get 6 or better. You can still roll 1 to 5 a lot. And sometimes that did even happen in the game where the dwarf, who was supposed to be really good at this, rolls 5 times, or not 5 times, rolls like 3 times, I think, 5 or less, trying to search for secret doors. He really wanted to search for secret doors in this room. So let's see. He really wants, but since time really doesn't matter, I think I would just, secret doors need to be found. And this is actually even more sort of ridiculous because, especially in the castle, it's generally obvious where some secret doors are. There's this corridor which always has a secret door in it. That becomes very game meta to know. You never have that situation in HeroQuest, but there are meta reasons to think there might be secret doors in certain places, which I don't like. But so even though you as the player know there's a secret door there, you got to keep rolling and might not be able to even find it, even though you know that it's got to be there. So the Dragon Strike system for secret doors is lame. Now, so especially if you've got to find the secret door in that situation. Some people will go, well, now, wait a minute. You could lower basically the difficulty level to find a secret door if you think it's supposed to be an easy door. But if it's supposed to be an easy door to find, then when they search, they should just find it. Because I was seeing some people's house rules saying that, well, it's not, I don't always use 6 in order to adjudicate success or failure. Sometimes if something's easier, I move down to 4. If something's harder, I move up to 8. Okay, I get it. But we can go down that rabbit hole quite a bit. And like, this is something that's harder to do. This is something that's easier to do. But then your players always have to know basically your DC. The way the Dragon Strike game is set up right now, you're always trying to roll 6 or better to do anything other than score hidden combat. In combat, you have to know the armor class of the foe. But it's combat. It's the game. You're trying to roll against an armor class. In every other time when a roll is called for, you're trying to roll 6 or better. I like that because the boys all know if it's time to make a secret door check, or it's time to make a disarm traps check, or it's time to make a feat of dexterity or feat of strength, they just know it's always 6. They don't have to get additional information from me. Oh, this is a 4. Okay. Oh, this is going to be an 8. Oh no. Oh, but I rolled a 6, but I have to roll an 8. It seems like a good game design mechanic that if it's supposed to be there and supposed to be a challenge, then it needs to be a 6, and don't overcomplicate trying to adjudicate a bunch of DCs. So I think HeroQuest wins with the secret door thing, but then use something like tension dice or the dragon countdown or something like that, so that if you're going to spend a lot of time searching for secret doors, then they may be using up their time, or they will be using up their time. Another way I was thinking, well, I don't know if that's important. I was thinking about other ways to do this, because there are some kind of like hybrid things where if you wanted it to be something that you have to find, but you might fail, you could be giving people successes on a failure for next time. You know, like, okay, I failed this time, but then I'll get +1 success next time. So that way you don't end up with this thing that, okay, theoretically we could never do this. I like the tension when monsters are coming in. There is the same kind of situation here with breaking down doors. But breaking down doors still works. Having to roll to break down doors still works if monsters are coming. Oh my God, monsters are coming. I'm trying to run away. Or when you've got the dragon coming and I can't roll good enough to get this door open, we might have to turn around and fight the monsters. But as soon as there's no time pressure, going around the board and trying to, get somebody to roll a certain number on a die in order to knock down the door sucks. Keith says you could make paper cardboard tokens with the specific monster symbol with crossed bones. Yes. And I think that if I had additional time, I think I would do that. I would probably do exactly that. But I also think that's something that actually should have come with the game. It's got monster tokens in there. I mean, not monster tokens. It's got monster miniatures. It's got other tokens in there. There should have been another sheet of tokens that indicated that. That's exactly what should have been there. Hey, 5-Starman7, good to see you. Been a while. Good to see you. Good afternoon from England. Good afternoon to you as well. Good morning, Tomocrat. Good morning. Good to see you. Okay, so actually I just talked about this one, which is edit, paste, and match style, rolling to open doors. Sometimes it works. Other times it kind of doesn't. Again, theoretically, because you could never open it. And if the dragon has already appeared, time doesn't matter. If monsters are on the board, you might be trying to run from them and it might matter whether or not you can get the door open in time. Kind of like a Zombicide thing. Zombicide has that mechanic. You got to roll to open this door. You got to have the right weapon in order to open the door. It's a very important part of that game. But even if you got the right weapon, it sucks to spend a bunch of turns trying to open this door just because you can't roll well enough. Searching for a trap automatically disarms it. This is an interesting choice on the Game Master, on the Dragon Strike side. In HeroQuest, you search for traps and you can find them, and then you find out, oh my God, there's a trap. Okay, this space looks suspicious, or that trap is that chest is trapped, and then somebody else has to go and disarm it. In Dragon Strike, it's all the same roll, which I think is a bit weird. So I think I like the idea. It's faster. It's faster. I searched for traps. Okay, you did find one and you removed it. Okay. But I still think I like finding it, and then you either have to come up with some way to disarm it or you have to go around it. I think I kind of like that. Although in HeroQuest, well, it's adding the time variable in. The answer is adding the time variable in. When you're searching for HeroQuest and searching for traps in HeroQuest, you can't do that in a room where you got a bunch of monsters in anyway. So if there's a bunch of monsters in there, you can't search for it, and you're just going to end up stepping in the traps if you've got to maneuver around. Once the monsters are gone, you can search for traps and then easily evade them And you might not even need to go in and search for traps in that case. Now, the hallways are different. If you're trying to move down a hallway, that's different. But I'm talking about in rooms here. But it would be if you're adding in the time again. Okay, search for traps. Do we spend time trying to disarm this one, or do we try to move around it, or try to jump it, or something like that? That becomes a more interesting decision once time matters more. Keith says, sounds like a luck mechanic my friend uses for our D&D campaign. You're talking about for rolling to open doors and things like that? Like how it kind of is. I mean, to me, it's a negative side of it because it's randomization. It's it can really slow down the game when nobody can actually do what they're trying to do. Oh, we can add luck to any luck D6 to any failed roll. That's like the hybrid I was talking about. I was thinking about just adding a number, but you could do that too. Like, hey, I am trying to now. I actually like something like that. That could be something. I'd have to check that out. But let's say you're searching for secret doors. Secret doors are still weird, like we've talked about, because you can't ever gate something behind it. That you can't ever use one that you've got to find if you're going to be rolling for it. But if time matters, it should. The idea should be how much time are you going to spend searching? And say you're for every consecutive round you spend continuing to try to open or try to find the secret doors, then you will get an additional D4. In HeroQuest, in Dragon Strike, a D4 might work. So that's spending a lot of time. And if time matters, and we want to be in an environment where time matters, but then if you spent 3 turns, you'd be rolling like D12 plus 2D10 to try to get over that, 2D4, try to get over that. So it would increase, that, hey, I already searched that area. You don't have to start again. So I actually like something like that. I think something like that might be the solution. Some type of hybrid component where what you're really trying to find out is, hey, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to search for secret doors. Or you can do the same thing if you're trying to knock down a door. If you got the barbarian knocking at a door trying to beat it in because it's locked, you're trying to figure out, can he do it on one hit, boom, and get us through, because then we're through and our time's not mattering. Or is it going to take him more time, because then you're going to get a plus D4 and plus D4. So eventually he's going to get it open. You're increasing the probability you're going to get it open on every turn. The variable depends on how much time are you having to spend. I think that's that kind of thing. A hybrid situation like that is the ultimate solution. When time matters, I think it does. That gives you your luck. The luck of the dice is whether or not you can do it fast. Keith says indirect fire rules in bolt action improves the target rule by 1 after each turn when you miss. That makes a lot of sense for indirect fire, because you're seeing how you missed and recalibrate your aim in your weapon. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Also, we've got we're looking at some of these spells. The biggest offender in Dragon Strike as far as a spell goes that we found, and I was looking through the whole deck yesterday. All kinds of notes here. I said, what the frack is up with the sleep spell? Because my brother Drew was like, wait a minute. This has to do because the reason is because the hero version of the spell is majorly overpowered, and it seems like people talk about that a lot. It's also majorly overpowered and is complex. It's a very complex spell. And it also shows inconsistency with how being asleep works in the game, about how sleeping generally works in the game. This right here is actually gives a need or shows a need for conditions in the game. If you know me, I'm a huge fan of conditions. I'm a huge fan of cards. I like conditions. I like feeling it as we're playing. That's what I like. So we need conditions in the game. So we need to understand what is the condition of being asleep. And then that way, anything that generates the sleeping or a sleeping condition works the same way. You always know how sleep works. In this, being asleep works differently depending on what puts you to sleep. So it's a very ad hoc kind of way to go. It kind of a throwback to older style role-playing games. We need being asleep as a condition, and then no matter what puts you to sleep, you can you know exactly how it works. So, for instance, the sleeping gas trap. Okay, with the sleeping gas trap, it says, so if you draw the sleeping gas trap card, save versus magic, you get to roll a save versus magic roll, or else you sleep through your next turn and attacks against sleeping creatures automatically succeed. Okay, so you're basically, if you fall asleep, you're going to lose a turn, and if a monster attacks you, their attack is automatically going to succeed, so you're going to lose that hit point. But with the sleep spell that the heroes have got, the sleep spell says up to 3 enemies you see fall asleep. Tip the figures over. Any further attack kills the sleeper automatically. Not just succeeding on an attack, but any further attack kills a sleeper automatically. And then also waking. Sleepers yawn and rise when someone moves or attacks within, I believe that's 6 squares. Does that mean through walls? Unclear. They must wait 1 round to act. A hero can perform a feat of dexterity to avoid waking a sleeper. This doesn't say anything like, I was looking for something like not effective against the undead. Or does that mean that you can really put the dragon to sleep? And there's no save. See, I was expecting it to limit the number of types of creatures that you could use this spell on. I was also expecting it to give my monsters at least a save against it, a save versus magic. It does not. All 3 of and it's up to 3. It's not even 1. It's all 3 of them fall asleep. And even if they do wake up, they've got to wait 1 more round to act. I mean, this spell is like, why would you not take this spell? And it's a 1st level spell. Sleepers yawn and rise when somebody moves or attacks within 6 squares. But you can perform a feat of dexterity to avoid waking a sleeper. So the limitation they're trying to put on here, so this is a more complex spell, as you're seeing, and the limitation that you're supposed to be doing here is, okay, if I think I see what they were trying to go, but with the play testing, surely they should have realized this is just ridiculous. That they can cast the wizard could put some guards to sleep, for instance. Like, let's not fight these guys. They fall asleep. Now we've all got to roll our feats of dexterity to sneak past them. Okay, I can see that. Or I put them to sleep, and then somebody like the thief perform a feat of dexterity to sneak up to one and then make an attack and then automatically kill that person. But then there was an attack made, and so other people would wake up, although they would still have to miss a turn. But that means that if you've got the thief already sitting next to the dragon, and then the wizard walks up and casts sleep on the dragon, well, nobody move until it's the thief's turn again, and then stab the dragon. So this spell is majorly overpowered. It's going to have to be reworked, I think. But it needs to be reworked in a way in which we take conditions seriously in the game, because there's also paralyzation, or what does it mean to be flying, or what does it mean to be levitating. All of those things should be removed from the cards and then put into a glossary that actually says this is what this condition is, and then have the cards or spells reference those conditions. That's the way that the game, I feel like, should be designed, and probably could have helped to fix our sleep spell, even though I just don't understand how that's play tested, because that just seems obviously like such an incredibly powerful spell. All right. Well, I was going to take a look at, I got some weird lighting here on the, like moisture in the lens or something like that. I'll have to check that out. But I was going to take a look at an online One Night Werewolf that I've been working on. Yeah, man, I wonder what's going on with my lens. But I was going to look at, but I think we've been going for almost an hour and a half today, so I'm going to just push that topic until the next. I really enjoyed sitting here talking about this with you guys. We are still going to continue Lamentations of the Flame Princess very soon. I'm not sure if we will do that tomorrow. We might. We can probably push One Night Werewolf. I'm not sure. It depends on what I feel like talking about tomorrow. But I've got an electronic edition or digital edition of One Night Werewolf ready to go, almost ready to go, like 98% ready to go. There's just one thing I'm trying to figure out how to do, and then it integrates very well with our virtual tavern. So once I have the tavern and I've got One Night Werewolf, then we can do something like an open house, and then we can play One Night Werewolf. Because I was trying to come up with what's an easy way to use playingcards.io. What kind of game can I design in playingcards.io that we can all use? That plays a lot of people, that is for a lot of people, is also fun, fast, and doesn't require a whole lot of components. So I'm still trying to learn how to set up the digital tabletop. And One Night Werewolf 1, that was perfect for that. So there's just one more thing I got to figure out. So I'm going to be doing that. Please do, if you are here and you're not part of the Raven Keep Discord server, I would, well, I don't have that. Wait, I can do it right here. Please come by Raven Keep Discord server. I would love to have you. So everybody, go play games. Hopefully you got a game to be in today. Go play with friends and family. But otherwise, I hope that you are being creative, being productive. And until I see you tomorrow, grind on. Later, everybody.